Okay, so I recently read a book called Love Trials, and I need to talk about it. And so while we talk about it, I have other stuff I forgot to do, like emboss my books. So I'm just going to be doing that while I talk about it. So basically, the premise of this book is Criminal Minds meets Saw. And, I like the show Criminal Minds, so I'm like, that interests me a lot, actually. So I pick it up and I read it. This book was so good, I read it in one day. And I'm not ashamed that I read it in one day either, because, I skipped a book, hold on. See, this is why I can't actually do this and talk at the same time. I'm not going to pay attention. Anyways, so I pick up the book to read it, because where I read it, it sounds like an absolute masterpiece. And it was, oh my word. Off the bat, in this book, there were 2 quotes that I recognized. The first one, and I read it in the correct voice and everything, was the one from Phineas and Ferb, where Doofenshmirtz, if that's how you pronounce his name, I never actually watched the show, is like, if I had a nickel for every time this happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which is a lot, but it's so weird that it happened twice, right? That was in the book, and I read it in the right voice. And then later, and if you've read the book, you will know the scene that I'm talking about. But during the scene, she references Wicked, specifically Wicked for Good, when they're singing the song As Long As You're Mine. And if you've watched the movie, you know what's happening during that song. And it very much fits for that scene in the book. But here's the premise of the book. And I'm also going to warn you, I'm going to give the premise of the book, and then I will probably continue to talk and spoil the book, because that's the whole reason I'm making this video. So basically, she is the lone survivor of a serial killer who killed her whole family, which is awful. And she's like living in a car. First off, she has an on again, off again, not really relationship with this one guy in the beginning of the book. And I think it's mainly so that she can feel a shred of attention and love, because she doesn't have that anymore. And the attention, and also so that when she spends the night, she has a place to stay instead of her car. And she's got this dog, and love the dog. She's shocked the dog still lived at some point. Basically, she's walking to her car, I think, and there's this ghost. But it's like really, okay, I will admit, this part is weird, because it's ghosts, but they're inhabiting real people. And so this person was some random guy, I don't know. And so basically, she gets inhabited by the ghost. Like, the ghost tries to kill her, and these 2 people show up, this older guy and then this guy who's her age. I think like maybe 20s or 30s. I don't really remember the age, because I don't usually pay attention to the age, if truth be told. And they rescue her from this phantom. And then the next day, they offer her a job. And she goes, "Nah, thanks. I'll just stay in my car when the job includes a place to live. But sure, stay in the car. So she's like, I'll stay in my car and I can handle and protect myself. Spoiler, she cannot. She, like that same night actually, gets attacked by a different ghost. And that ghost also tries to kill her. And that's after the fact that she saw a ghost at the library, I think. Again, it's been a little bit, and I read a lot of books in between, so this is just off the top of my head. But what I do remember is that she essentially calls them up the next day and goes, so is that job still available? Because actually, I'm going to take that option and come work for you. And she goes to work, and there's 2 girls, those 2 guys, and another guy on the team. And there used to be another person, but she had a run-in with a ghost and is now insane or something. I think she's in an asylum. I cannot give you the nitty-gritty details for certain parts of this, because it's not the stuff that stuck to me. I can really only tell you the stuff that did. And I remember I'm reading it, and the guy that wasn't with the other 2, I can't remember his name, of course, because I can't remember any names, because those also don't actually exist to me. So we're going to call him Charlie. And if that's his name, I'm going to actually laugh, because that's going to be hilarious. And the girl is going to be Sam. And the guy is going to be Knox. And do with those names what you will. I'm probably going to forget them myself anyways. But anyways, to make matters easier on us, Charlie is flirting with Sam. And she's flirting back. She goes, you know, he is pretty cute. But like any understood book, she's also attracted to Knox. Knox is who I was voting for, by the way. And then I'm going to speed this up because I'm blanking on every fact I had in my mind before I started. Sam and Charlie go out to look for a ghost, while Knox is with the other guy and the girl who I didn't name because they're not as important. And Charlie, that's who I named him, I gotta remember. Charlie and Sam find the serial killer ghost person thingamajig that they're looking for. It's a really powerful one. And so that ghost almost kills Charlie, and then right after almost kills Sam. And then Sam and Knox have a moment in the kitchen, and they kiss. Why is this stuck together? There we go. They kiss, and then Knox runs away. And I'm not spoiling that yet, because in case you do want to read it, I'm going to spoil that at the very end on why he ran away, because I truly was not expecting it. Anyways, she and Charlie had just kissed, like, maybe half an hour earlier. And she's like, actually, hold on, I can't do this. I actually like someone else. I like Knox. And he goes, that's fair. Like, I could kind of tell. I was just doing it for you, I guess. I don't like how that sounds, but I think that was basically the gist of it. And so they the serial killer decides he's going to kidnap, originally was going to kidnap Charlie and Sam, because the serial killer kidnaps couples and people in love. Originally it was like family members or best friends, but he didn't like that, and so instead he picks married couples. And so he was going to pick Charlie and Sam because he's like, you guys are in love, you guys are perfect for my child, to prove that love doesn't actually exist. Which, like, okay, you do you, bud. And I didn't come to understand why he chose that path. I don't agree with it at all. But essentially what had happened was he was neglected as a child. And then his parents divorced and he was completely abandoned, shipped off to boarding school, never to be heard from again. Boo-hoo. That actually is sad. I'm not joking. I don't get into emotions doing these, and it's not as fun that way. So, then he gets engaged, and the serial killer's fiance goes, actually, I don't want to marry you. 2 weeks before their wedding. So he's of the opinion that true love doesn't actually exist, and he's going to show every single person that is together that it's not actually true. So he planned to take Charlie and Sam. Well, then he sees Knox with Charlie, and it turns out Knox had been a serial killer. But just like with these other people, the reason he had become one is because he had been taken over by the Phantom. And so when the serial killer sees Knox with Charlie, that is when the serial killer is like, oh, actually, let's do the process of nature. Or process of nature? Yeah, like natural order. That's what it's called. So he's like, let's just prove that no matter why you became one, one's a serial killer, always a serial killer, and I'm going to convince you to kill it. And so he kidnaps the two and brings them to his abandoned hospital and puts them in the basement and gives them all these trials. Well, somebody, hint hint, Knox, did not like the idea of having to, one person, okay, preface this because I also forgot to say this. One person will survive and win the trials, the other person will die. And I think potentially the other person has to kill them. I don't really remember. But anyways, so going off of this, he can't imagine living while she dies. And so when the first trial starts, it's the first person to draw blood, I think is what it was. And so he tries to scare her and basically goes to attack her so that she'll think, oh, he is no longer on my side. He's no longer my friend at all. He is instead a through and through serial killer who will kill me, so I will kill him, or at least do the trial against him so that I survive. Yeah, this girl doesn't do that. This girl the whole time, even, she picks up something just to, like, barely protect herself. And she does. And then he's hung up with chains for the night as punishment for losing. And so normal people would go, okay, I'm going to stay as far away from this guy as possible. No, no, no. She takes a blanket, wraps it around him, tries to get him to eat, tries to get him to drink water, basically just taking care of him. Very sweet. I would not have done that, I don't think. I would be too busy trying to keep my life and stay alive. Well, then comes the next trial. The next trial. They have to walk across broken glass, okay? And so she puts her shoes on her hands, and then she puts a jacket down for across her feet. I don't really remember. But she starts walking. Well, then she falls, and so she's on the broken glass. And I could just feel the pain reading it. I've never actually done this, but like you can just read it. I'm like, oh, that's so painful. Cause it's like stepping on Legos, but way worse. And so she falls, and she's just laying completely on the broken glass. And he comes and picks her up and runs across the broken glass with her in his arms, like he's carrying her bridal style. Very sweet. Also proves that he doesn't actually want to kill her. He's trying to save her life. And then his punishment is he has to go back on the broken glass. Mind you, they were both barefoot. So he has to go back in the broken glass to retrieve her jacket and then be strung up. And so that happens. Then comes the third trial. And the third trial is the first person to cut off part of the other person. And so he's like, cut off my hand. And she goes, no, like, I don't want to hurt you again. Like, I don't like that you're always letting me win. And he goes, do it. I can't bear to see myself hurt you. So she picks up the axe, brings it down completely away from his arm on purpose. And it's just like, oops, sorry, I missed. Now it's your turn. So he's suffering from blood loss, dehydration, and starvation. And so he brings it up. He's very weak. Well, he kind of sways a little bit, and then he starts to bring it down. This girl moves her hand so that it gets 4 of her fingers and part of her thumb and chopped it off. And oh my word, I could just, like, when I read that scene, I could just hear, like, the squelch of it falling off. It was so gross. And then the last and final trial is they have to swallow a key, and they have 30 minutes to get the key out of the other person and escape. And so they decide they're not going to do that. They're just going to sit and spend that time in each other's arms, loving each other. And so the guy comes down, and she goes, hey, he's going to make you try to kill me. You need to do it. I'll play dead. He's like, I can't do it. I cannot kill you. Well, he does. He kills her, and then they escape. And then they're able to track down the guy, and it all ends happily ever after. And then the book ends with the first guy that was there with Knox to save her. He dies. Actually, I lied. The serial killer killed him to prove something to Knox. And then, so that happened. And then back to the whole reason, because that's basically like the gist of what I remember especially. The whole reason Knox ran away from Sam when they kissed is because he was reminded that she looks exactly like the people he had been forced to kill, and he didn't want to kill her. And he had trained himself to be unfeeling, and she brought out emotions, and he didn't like that because he couldn't control them, and he didn't want to act on them. And so he ran away. Also, I forgot another thing. She can talk to ghosts. Almost killed herself again. She really didn't think stuff through a lot. But I was able to get through a lot of books and talk about the one book. And stay tuned for my next book rant.